There is a power within every individual that often goes unnoticed, buried under layers of doubt, fear, and the weight of expectations. That power is the ability to believe in oneself, a force so strong that it can transform lives, open doors that seemed forever locked, and create opportunities where none seemed to exist. The world is filled with noise, voices telling you who you should be, what you can or cannot achieve, how far you are allowed to go. Yet among all that noise, the voice that truly matters is your own. Self-belief is not just a quality, it is the foundation upon which everything else stands. Without it, dreams remain distant and potential stays hidden. With it, however, even the impossible begins to feel within reach. When you believe in yourself, you shift the balance of power from the outside world to your inner world. No longer are you waiting for approval, validation, or permission from others. You begin to understand that you are the author of your own story, and no one else can hold the pen for you. People may question your choices, laugh at your ambitions, or criticize your path, but their words lose their weight when you carry the certainty of your own worth inside you. This does not mean arrogance or thinking you are better than others. It is about knowing that you are enough, that you are capable, and that you have a right to claim space in this world. Many people allow doubt to rule their lives. They wait for the right time, for someone to validate their dreams, or for conditions to be perfect. The truth is, none of those things ever arrive as neatly as we hope. Waiting for external permission is like waiting for a ship that will never dock. Self-belief is the vessel you must build with your own hands, and once you set sail, the world has no choice but to take notice. History is filled with examples of individuals who were told they couldn't, shouldn't, or wouldn't make it. What set them apart was not privilege, luck, or even talent at times. It was their refusal to doubt themselves when the world doubted them. Self-belief is tested most during adversity. When the road is smooth, it is easy to walk with confidence, but strength shows when the ground beneath you begins to crack, when obstacles block your path, and when setbacks threaten to break your spirit. In those moments, it is tempting to surrender, to believe the whispers of doubt, to convince yourself that perhaps the dream was too big, but that is when self-belief matters most. It becomes your anchor in the storm, reminding you of who you are and why you began in the first place. Each time you choose belief over doubt, you train your mind to trust your own power more deeply. The journey towards self-belief is not always straightforward. It is built in small, often invisible moments. It is the decision to speak up when your instinct tells you to stay silent. It is applying for an opportunity even when you feel underqualified. It is saying yes to challenges that scare you because you trust you will grow in the process. Every time you take a step forward in faith, you strengthen the muscle of belief. Just like the body grows stronger with exercise, the mind grows stronger with practice. Doubt never disappears completely, but belief can grow louder than doubt if nurtured consistently. What often holds people back is the fear of judgment. The thought of failing in front of others can feel unbearable. Yet, the truth is that people are far too occupied with their own struggles to dwell on yours. And even if they do, what power do their opinions truly have if you choose not to hand it to them? Self-belief is the shield that protects you from the arrows of criticism. It does not mean criticism won't sting, but it means you won't let it pierce through to your core. You will hear it, perhaps even learn from it, but it will not define you. Belief in oneself is also contagious. When you walk into a room radiating confidence, people respond differently. They are more likely to trust your ideas, respect your presence, and support your vision. Confidence creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities. It is not about pretending to know everything, but about showing that you trust yourself to figure things out. The world often mirrors back to you the energy you project. If you project doubt, others doubt you too. If you project belief, others are far more likely to believe in you. There will always be comparisons, someone prettier, smarter, more talented, or seemingly more successful. It is easy to look at others and conclude that you do not measure up. But belief is not about comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. It is about focusing on your own lane, your own pace, and your own progress. The only comparison worth making is between who you were yesterday and who you are today. Self-belief grows when you measure success by your own standards, not by the standards imposed by society or the achievements of others. Sometimes belief must be stubborn. You may not have all the answers, the resources, or the roadmap. You may not even see how your dream could possibly work. But belief is choosing to move anyway, to trust that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. Many of the greatest innovations and breakthroughs came from people who dared to believe in things that did not exist yet. They were laughed at, dismissed, and even ridiculed, but their belief carried them until their vision became undeniable. That is the magic of faith in oneself. It bridges the gap between imagination and reality. Self-belief is not a gift handed to you at birth. It is something you cultivate, protect, and reinforce every single day. It begins with the words you tell yourself. The internal dialogue matters more than you think. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not capable, not worthy, or not enough, those words become chains that bind you. But if you begin to replace them with words of encouragement, reminding yourself of your strengths, celebrating your progress, and affirming your worth, you create wings instead of chains. Over time, those wings allow you to rise higher than you ever thought possible. There is also an element of responsibility that comes with believing in yourself. When you trust your own power, you stop blaming circumstances, excuses, or other people for holding you back. You take accountability for your choices, your effort, and your growth. That responsibility can feel heavy at times, but it is also liberating. It means your destiny is not in the hands of others. It is in your hands. You may not control everything that happens to you, but you control how you respond, and that response shapes the course of your life. Self-belief also requires patience. We live in a world obsessed with quick results and instant gratification, but true confidence is not built overnight. It comes from a consistent pattern of showing up for yourself, even when progress feels slow. It is about trusting the process, knowing that every step forward, no matter how small, is evidence of your ability. Impatience breeds doubt, but patience nurtures belief. With time, the small victories accumulate, and the belief that once felt fragile becomes unshakable. At its core, self-belief is an act of courage. It is standing up for yourself when no one else does. It is choosing to pursue your dreams even when they scare you. It is refusing to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. It is daring to love yourself in a world that profits from your insecurity. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward despite the fear. When you believe in yourself, fear may still whisper, but it no longer dictates your steps. Every strong journey begins with one simple decision, the decision to believe, not in perfection, not in certainty, but in possibility. The possibility that you are capable of more than you know. The possibility that your voice matters. The possibility that your dreams are valid. The possibility that you can endure, overcome, and rise. This decision, once made, becomes the compass that guides you through uncertainty. There is a saying that the world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you. Self-belief is knowing the answer before the world asks. It is standing firm in your identity, your values, and your vision. It is refusing to let others write your definition. When you believe in yourself, the world may still try to label you, but those labels lose their power. You are no longer confined by them, you rise above them. In the end, belief is the seed from which everything else grows. Dreams, goals, achievements, and legacies all begin with the simple yet powerful act of saying, I can. It is not always easy. There will be days when doubt feels louder than belief, when challenges seem too heavy, when giving up feels tempting. But in those moments, remember that belief is a choice, and every time you choose it, you strengthen the foundation that holds your entire life together. Failure is a word that often carries a sting. It is spoken in whispers, avoided in conversation, and feared in action. Yet failure, in truth, is not an end but a beginning, not a verdict but a lesson, not a stop sign but a stepping stone. The path to growth, to achievement, to becoming more than what you were yesterday is paved with moments where things do not go according to plan. And those very moments, though painful and humbling, are the soil in which resilience and strength take root. When people think of failure, they often picture embarrassment, disappointment, or loss. They imagine the looks of others when something goes wrong, the silence that follows rejection, or the emptiness that comes when hard work does not yield the expected result. But failure is not humiliation, it is information. Every time you fall short of a goal, you are handed valuable feedback about what does not work, about where you can improve, and about the limits you can push further. To treat failure as final is to rob yourself of growth. To embrace it as part of the process is to turn it into your most powerful teacher. The greatest achievements in history were not the result of straight, smooth journeys. They were marked with setbacks, wrong turns, and countless moments of doubt. What separates those who succeed from those who give up is not the absence of failure, but the courage to keep going after it. Success, in many ways, is built on a mountain of failures. Each failed attempt adds to the foundation until eventually, you have climbed high enough to see the horizon of your dreams. Failure reveals character. When everything is going well, it is easy to appear confident, determined, and motivated. But when the ground crumbles beneath you, when plans collapse, and when the result is the opposite of what you hoped, that is when the real test begins. Do you allow failure to define you, or do you use it to refine you? Those who see failure as final shrink from the challenge, but those who see it as temporary rise with a new understanding. It is in those moments of defeat that perseverance is born. Strength does not grow in comfort, it grows in struggle. Consider the fear of failure that stops so many from even trying. People hold back from pursuing opportunities, from speaking their truth, from chasing their dreams because they imagine the pain of falling short. Yet the pain of regret is far greater than the pain of failure. At least when you try and fail, you have a lesson, an experience, and a chance to rise again. When you do nothing out of fear, you are left with emptiness. Failure is proof that you had the courage to take a step forward, while regret is the weight of never moving at all. The mind often exaggerates failure, turning it into a monster that looms larger than it truly is. One setback becomes a story of incompetence. One rejection becomes a declaration of unworthiness. One stumble becomes evidence that you are not enough. But failure is not a mirror of who you are. It is simply a moment in time, a snapshot of effort that didn't land the way you hoped. It does not erase your abilities, your potential, or your worth. It only highlights where you can grow, and growth, by its very nature, demands failure. When children learn to walk, they fall countless times. Yet no one calls those falls failures. They are seen as natural, necessary steps toward eventually walking with confidence. In adulthood, however, those same stumbles are treated with shame. But in reality, the principle never changes. Falling is part of learning. The only difference is that as we grow older, we let pride and fear cloud our perspective. If we approached our failures with the same persistence and curiosity as a child learning to walk, we would discover that each fall carries us closer to standing tall. Failure also builds humility. It reminds us that no matter how skilled, intelligent, or prepared we may be, there is always room to learn. Humility is not weakness, it is strength disguised as openness. When you accept failure without ego, you give yourself permission to receive its lessons. You begin to see that every mistake is a stepping stone toward wisdom, and wisdom is a far greater prize than a flawless record. Perfection teaches nothing, but imperfection reveals everything. Every rejection carries within it a redirection. What seems like a closed door may actually be steering you toward a path better suited for you. Sometimes failure is life's way of protecting you from something that was never truly meant for you, or preparing you for something far greater than you imagined. When you view failure as guidance rather than punishment, you begin to trust the process even when you don't understand it. The setback that feels crushing today may someday become the turning point that shapes your destiny. There is also a resilience that only failure can teach. When you fail and still choose to rise, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than you thought. Each comeback builds confidence, not in the illusion of invincibility, but in the reality of resilience. Confidence born from constant success is fragile, it shatters at the first sign of defeat. But confidence born from failure is unshakable, because it knows that falling is not the end. It knows that you can survive disappointment and still move forward. Failure also deepens empathy. When you experience struggle, you gain a greater understanding of the struggles of others. You become more compassionate, more supportive, and more willing to lift others when they stumble. This is why failure, though painful, enriches character. It softens arrogance, strengthens resilience, and expands perspective. It teaches you to see life not as a straight path, but as a series of detours that shape you in ways success alone never could. Fear of failure is often rooted in the desire for approval. People want to appear strong, competent, and successful in the eyes of others. But the truth is, no one who has ever achieved greatness has done so without failure. Behind every story of triumph lies a history of setbacks that rarely make the headlines. The people you admire, the achievements you respect, the innovations that changed the world, they were all built by individuals who stumbled, fell, and rose again. If failure did not stop them, why should it stop you? The difference lies in perspective. If you view failure as proof that you are not capable, it will crush your spirit. But if you view it as evidence that you are trying, learning, and evolving, it becomes fuel. Failure is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It is the meaning you assign to it that gives it power. Assign it the meaning of growth, and it will propel you forward. Assign it the meaning of defeat, and it will hold you back. The choice is always yours. Embracing failure does not mean celebrating mistakes or ignoring responsibility. It means owning them, learning from them, and refusing to let them define you. It means extracting the lesson, applying it, and moving with greater wisdom than before. Each time you do this, failure becomes less intimidating. It loses its grip, transforming from a threat into a companion on the journey towards success. There will be times when failure feels crushing, when it weighs on your chest like a stone and makes it hard to breathe. In those moments, it is tempting to give up, to conclude that maybe the dream is not meant for you. But that is the very moment when you must remember that failure is not final. The greatest stories of resilience are not written by those who never failed, but by those who failed deeply and still rose again. The depth of your fall only increases the height of your eventual rise. One of the most powerful truths about failure is that it strips away illusions and reveals what truly matters. When everything goes wrong, you are forced to confront your deepest motivations. Do you want this dream badly enough to try again? Is the goal meaningful enough to endure discomfort? If the answer is yes, failure becomes nothing more than a hurdle on the track, not the finish line. It tests your commitment and clarifies your purpose. Without failure, you might never discover how much you truly want something. Failure is also a reminder that progress is never linear. Growth is not a straight line upward. It is a jagged path of peaks and valleys. Each valley is an invitation to rise again, stronger and wiser than before. Each climb builds endurance, teaching you how to keep moving even when the path is steep. If life were only peaks, you would never know the strength you possess to climb out of the valleys. At the heart of it all, failure is a gift disguised as a challenge. It is a mirror that reflects not your limitations but your potential for growth. It asks you to rise, to learn, to adapt, and to keep going. It humbles you enough to learn, strengthens you enough to endure, and pushes you enough to reach heights you never thought possible. Those who fear it remain stagnant, but those who embrace it discover that failure was never the end, it was always the beginning. Failure is one of the most misunderstood parts of life. From an early age, people are taught to fear it, to avoid it at all costs, and to hide it when it happens. It is often seen as weakness, as proof that someone is not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. But this is a dangerous illusion because failure is not the enemy, it is the teacher. Every stumble, every rejection, every defeat is an invitation to grow, to evolve, and to build resilience that cannot be taught by comfort or easy victories. The truth is, failure is inevitable for anyone who dares to chase something meaningful. The only way to avoid failure is to live so cautiously that you never attempt anything at all, and that in itself is the greatest failure of all. To live without trying is to deny yourself the chance to discover what you are truly capable of. Every great journey, every dream worth chasing, carries the risk of falling short. That risk is not a barrier, it is a stepping stone, a necessary part of becoming stronger, wiser, and more determined. Failure has a way of stripping away illusions. It forces you to confront reality and see where improvement is needed. While success may flatter you into thinking everything is perfect, failure gives you the gift of perspective. It highlights weaknesses, exposes blind spots, and teaches lessons that can never be learned from smooth sailing. Those who understand this truth do not run from failure, they use it as fuel. Each time they fall, they rise with sharper clarity, deeper wisdom, and greater determination than before. The power of failure lies in how you choose to interpret it. One person may see it as evidence that they are not good enough, while another may see it as proof that they had the courage to try. One may allow it to end their journey, while another may use it as the very reason to keep moving forward. Failure itself is neutral. It is simply an outcome that did not align with your expectation. It becomes either destructive or transformative depending on the meaning you attach to it. When you choose to see it as a stepping stone, it becomes one of the most valuable allies you will ever have. Consider the countless stories of people who went on to achieve greatness after failing repeatedly. They were rejected, laughed at, dismissed, and told they would never make it. Yet instead of letting those moments break them, they allowed them to shape them. They understood that each failure was not a dead end but a detour pointing them toward a better path. What appeared to be defeat was in fact preparation for a greater victory. Their willingness to fail, and fail again, was the very thing that set them apart from those who gave up too soon. Failure is also a test of resilience. It asks, how badly do you want this? When things come easily, it is simple to stay committed, but when doors close, when the effort feels wasted, and when the disappointment weighs heavily on your shoulders, that is when you discover the strength of your desire. If the dream is shallow, failure will break it, but if the dream is deep, failure will only strengthen it. The setbacks become proof of your determination, evidence that you are willing to endure discomfort for the sake of something greater. The fear of failure often holds people back more than failure itself ever could. People imagine worst-case scenarios, the judgment of others, the embarrassment of falling short. But the truth is, most people are far too absorbed in their own struggles to focus on your failures. Even if they do notice, their opinions cannot define you unless you allow them to. The real danger is not in failing, but in never trying, in silencing your own potential before the world has a chance to hear it. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it, and failure is a sign that you had the courage to try. What failure teaches most profoundly is humility. It reminds you that no one has all the answers, that growth requires mistakes, and that progress is born from trial and error. Humility is not weakness, it is openness. When you accept failure without shame, you become open to learning its lessons. You stop hiding from your imperfections and begin embracing them as part of the journey. This humility becomes a strength because it makes you adaptable, teachable, and willing to grow in ways pride would never allow. Failure also deepens empathy. When you have stumbled, you understand the pain of others who stumbled too. You become less judgmental, more supportive, and more compassionate. You learn to cheer for others instead of competing against them, because you know the weight of disappointment and the courage it takes to rise again. This empathy builds deeper connections with people, and those connections often become sources of encouragement that help you keep going. In this way, failure not only shapes your character, but also enriches your relationships. Another gift of failure is perspective. When you succeed after many struggles, the victory feels far sweeter than if it had come easily. Success without failure can make people arrogant or complacent, but success after failure is deeply grounding. You know the price you paid, the tears you shed, and the effort you invested. That awareness keeps you grateful, disciplined, and motivated to keep growing. It also teaches you not to take opportunities for granted because you understand how fragile and hard-earned they truly are. Failure can also serve as redirection. Sometimes what feels like rejection is protection. A door closing may push you to discover a better one. A failed attempt at one dream may lead you to uncover another dream, even more aligned with your purpose. Life has a way of using failure to steer you toward paths you would never have chosen on your own. While in the moment it may feel devastating, in time you often look back and see that the failure was actually a blessing in disguise, a turning point that led you exactly where you needed to go. The road of failure is not easy. It is often lonely, frustrating, and heavy. There will be nights when you question your worth, mornings when you feel too tired to try again, and moments when giving up feels like the only option. But those who endure, who rise each time they fall, eventually realize that failure was never a stop sign at all. It was a staircase, steep, painful, and demanding, but leading upward all the same. Each step, each stumble, each climb shapes you into someone stronger than before. The lessons of failure cannot be rushed. They require patience, growth is rarely immediate, and the results of your efforts may take time to appear. But failure teaches you that consistency matters more than speed, that persistence is more powerful than perfection, and that progress is often invisible until suddenly it becomes undeniable. The patience learned through failure becomes one of your greatest strengths, allowing you to remain steady when others quit too soon. Failure builds confidence in an unexpected way, not the shallow confidence of never being tested, but the deep confidence of knowing you can survive difficulty. Each time you fail and recover, you prove to yourself that you are not as fragile as you once thought. You discover that you can withstand disappointment and still stand tall, that you can face defeat and still move forward. This resilience breeds a quiet confidence that no external validation can provide because it is rooted in lived experience, not appearances. Ultimately, failure asks you to choose who you want to be. Will you be the person who lets it break you, or the one who lets it make you? Will you allow it to silence your dreams, or will you use it as fuel to chase them even harder? Every failure carries within it a choice, and that choice determines your destiny. Those who see failure as the end remain stuck, but those who see it as the beginning discover that it was never meant to stop them. It was meant to strengthen them. Failure is not the shadow that follows success. It is the light that reveals the path toward it. Every great achievement carries the fingerprints of failure, hidden in the background of every triumph. Without it, there is no growth, no resilience, no depth of character. To embrace failure is to embrace the fullness of the journey, to accept that every stumble is carving you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were before.